Welcome to Dodgers Dogs. As part of the Dodgers Daily Network, Casey Porter here, bringing you the great news that the Dodgers whipped the Giants again last night. Well, it didn't actually whip them, and the offense isn't exactly like clicking on all cylinders, but the Dodgers were definitely efficient enough yesterday to get the job done behind a tremendous pitching performance for Sheehan. We'll get into that. It was great to see the marginal players, Alex Call, Miguel Rojas, Yeson Kim. It was great to see them kind of finish things off, if you will. It was great to see Teo Hernandez again have a really nice game. And it was absolutely tremendous to see Sheehan and the way that he pitched. We're going to dive into what makes him successful, what made him successful last night. Of course, the Giants just aren't very good to begin with and not a very good offense, although they do have an accumulation of good offensive players. They should be a better offense than they are. But I've said this many different times, is that the Dodgers didn't put, or not the Dodgers, but the Giants, to me, didn't put together a roster full of, okay, well, this is our organizational philosophy, and we need this from that guy, and we need this from this guy, and we need a certain amount of slug here, we need a certain amount of base hitting here. To me, the Giants just went out and got a hodgepodge, and this is nothing I haven't said a million times before. They went out and got a hodgepodge of just the best names that they could buy, and to me, I'm going to say it again, and I've caught heat for this, and I don't care, okay? They went and bought a whole bunch of names that sound a lot better than they actually are, okay? Like they okay, well, let's go get Willy Adames. Okay, well, that sounds great. Like the Dodgers fans wanted him forever. But whenever you peel back the curtain, I mean, it's 213. The OPS is 592. He's always been a high swing and miss type of guy. And so now you go, okay, well, hopefully he can bring power from the shortstop spot. Well, he's hitting his OPS is 592. Matt Chapman, my opinion, the name brand is more than what you actually get, and you pay for more. You're paying more than what you actually get. Luis Ariz is he's just one of those guys that's really one-track minded, if you will. He gathers base hits. I would have less of a problem with Luis Ariz if he also walked to go along with his base hits. I really like Young-Hoo Lee. I think he's a good player. He's the player, in my opinion, that Yeson Kim needs to become. It was good to see Yeson Kim get to that high fastball last night. Elliot Ramos is a good player, and Drew Gilbert, of course, we know his story. Casey Smith's having a great year this year, but the Giants, to me, they don't have an organizational philosophy. They went out and got a terrible manager. I'm not going to get off on that. And, a guy that's going to drive everybody nuts over a 6 months. Maybe he'll change the pro. But anyways, it was good to see the Dodgers whip the Giants last night, 5-2 inside Uniqlo Field. By the way, we're going to release our Down on the Farm. We had a lot of good action last night. We had another walk-off with the Great Lakes Loons. Ching Shin Ko hit a big 3-run home run. You can see that. Josue DePaula, he had a hit yesterday, although he hasn't been going great as of late. Griffin Lockwood Powell's been doing very well. Oklahoma City is in Albuquerque, which means poor Alex Freeland. Not Alex Freeland. Well, him too, because he's with AAA Oklahoma City instead of with the Major League club. But poor Alex Friedman, the play-by-play voice for the AAA Oklahoma City Comets. Those games are so long. Oklahoma City got out to a 9-run lead. Albuquerque came storming back. Those games are typically 15-10, 15-12. And they last forever. So this is always the week where I feel the most sorry for Alex Friedman. I actually sent him a text yesterday and gave him my condolences for how long those games actually last. Okay, so I put the link in the chat there. Go ahead and log in if you want to here. But let's get into the Sheehan outing last night. Just absolutely fantastic. First pitch strikes to 20 of the 23 hitters that he faced. Wow. 87% first pitch strike rate for Sheehan. And that was with multiple pitches. He threw his four seam for strike one 90% of the time. He threw his slider 78% of the time. Seven of the nine first pitch sliders that he threw landed for strikes. All three of his first pitch changeups that he threw landed for strikes, and he had one curveball that he landed for a strike for his first pitch as well. Retired 6 of the first 7 hitters that he faced, and the Jung-Hoo Lee little parachute into left field that hit the wall, ricocheted, bounced off. I don't really blame Teo there. That's just a weird kick. I don't really blame him at all. Plus, I'm pretty damn happy with the way Teo is playing right now, and the Dodgers won. But, man, it was really, Emmett Sheehan, he absolutely dominated way more than what his stats would show last night. There's no doubt about that. 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. 19 whiffs for Emmett Sheehan. Dominant swing and miss stuff, no doubt about it. Again, the one time that the Giants had a chance to score, they happened to hit a weird, stupid inside the park home run on a ball that was hit about 8 miles an hour. So really bad luck that Emmett Sheehan gave up any runs at all last night. Again, 19 whiffs, dominant stuff. Fastball sat mid-90s, touched 96.6 for Emmett Sheehan, and the slider. He's been leaning on that slider a lot more this year, and it's been a really good pitch. So lots of 10 whiffs for his fastball. Slider had a 50% whiff rate. Good morning, Al. Thank you so much for joining. And outside the lead, the Jung-Hoo Lee homer, really no contact at all. Just 3 hard hit balls all game off of Emmett Sheehan. And when he's getting ahead in the count, and he's doing it with multiple pitches, and he's doing it at a 90% clip, Emmett Sheehan's going to be able to dictate and control counts. And when he does that, he is going to bully even major league hitters with the ride and run to his fastball. He's going to bully hitters with his slider. That is plus, no doubt about that. And he's going to have performances like last night. Maybe not quite as dominant because the Giants' offense certainly isn't great by any stretch of the imagination, but his stuff is electric enough to where, Sheehan is not injured. Happy the velocity decreased for mechanical issues now, no doubt. Okay, and so a great performance for Emmett Sheehan. Will Smith, you had to love seeing the leadoff home run. I'm going to go back to my process talk that I had yesterday. Where did that home run go? Right center. I know he ended up 1 for 4. That was the only hit of the night. But again, this is how you get out of slumps. So the way you get out of slumps is you don't see the results right off. What you end up doing is you have lots of quality at bats, and then you keep stringing quality at bats together, which hard hit balls to the opposite field gap is the definition of a quality at bat, no doubt. And then as you keep stringing quality at bats together, eventually the results will follow behind that. So the Dodgers right now are showing lots of signs of really good process. Alex Call, Hye-Sun Kim, Miguel Rojas had a really good night with a couple of hits last night. There, Shohei Ohtani with an opposite field home run the other day. Mookie Betts with 2 hard hits. Kyle Tucker, a couple of doubles the other night. One of them the opposite field. Teo Hernandez hitting the ball the opposite field. Andy Pages has been consistent all night. So what's happening right now is what I call the calm before the storm. I will be very surprised if the Dodgers offense, in a fairly short amount of time from now, starts, instead of scoring 4 or 5 runs, you start seeing the best version of what they can be. Hopefully it starts tonight with the Angels. The in-town rival. That will be very, very exciting. And then carrying that into the series with the Padres. But to me, this is the calm before the storm because, in my opinion, the Dodgers are putting together a lot of quality at-bats. And I'm going to say it again. The quality of at-bats, when you string them together, that's usually a precursor to an offense really starting to play well and the results showing beyond that. second day in a row where the Dodgers did not hit very well with runners in scoring position. They're now 5 for their last 21 the last 2 days, 2 games that they won, 3 for 11 last night with runners in scoring position. But I'm going to take away from that they've had 2 days in a row where they've had back-to-back opportunities that are in double digits with runners in scoring position. 21, I believe they had 10. I think they went 2 for 10 on Wednesday night. So 21 opportunities with runners in scoring position. Again, only 5 hits. I get it. But what I'm trying to say, my point here is that having opportunities with runners in scoring position, the amount of opportunities you get with runners in scoring position, to me, that's a pretty good example of the type of offense you're playing. So the more chances you get, the better it shows you the offense is starting to function. And those numbers will even themselves out as the season goes on. So again, the Dodgers are starting to show signs of playing a lot better offense. The results are still patchy. They're here sometimes. They're not sometimes. They're getting rewarded with some parachutes here or there. They're getting rewarded with some hard hit balls. But I think the rewards and the results are right around the corner. And I know Dave Roberts, who, if you follow Dodgers Dawgs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network, you know that I love listening to his post-game conferences because he is so descriptive. Yes, Ela Shiva. Sheehan looked great last night, no doubt about that. Love to see it. And so I'm excited to see where this offense goes for the Dodgers moving forward. And keep in mind that this is the only organization maybe ever that can intentionally leave out 2 players in their lineup that are both, I would probably say, surefire future Hall of Famers, okay? I would go so far as to say that with Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani, and you're able to do what you did last night. Now, well, again, it wasn't an offensive eruption, but it was darn sure good enough to beat your rival 5-2. And then also, who in the world has the guts after you got beat at home to your arch rival, the Giants, who aren't very good, by the way? The Giants are 1 game ahead of the Colorado Rockies in the NL West. And by the way, last night's win leapfrogged the Padres. Now the Dodgers are back in the lead in the NL West by a half a game. So let me ask you this too. What other organization ever would have the courage, I'll use that word, after you've gotten beat twice on your own home field, the offense has been pretty dormant, fans are pissed, Dodgers Dawgs is going on the Sunday show, the Tuesday show, the Wednesday show, bitching and moaning about every single little thing. That's me. I'm talking about me, okay? In the face of that, what organization would have the courage to leave 2 future surefire? I'm going to use that phrase again. What organization would have the courage to leave 2 surefire Hall of Famers out of their lineup in the face of that? And by the way, let me stack another layer on top of that. You're not even in first place in the NL West. You just got leapfrogged by your other arch rival, the San Diego Padres, and the Dodgers had the discipline. I'm going to say this again. The discipline. This is that word where this is why the Dodgers are so good in acquiring talent and building rosters. This term, discipline. They put a plan together. The plan is we want to make sure we maximize what Shohei Ohtani can do pitching, and we want to make sure that we can maximize what Shohei Ohtani can do offensively, okay? And the plan is if you allow him to only pitch and not hit on the day that he pitches and then the day after, then you're going to see an uptick in his stuff. You're going to see him go a little bit longer. You're going to see better execution. We saw that, okay? And then also the discipline to leave Mookie Betts out last night. And by the way, yet another added layer to that narrative. Not only are you leaving two surefire future Hall of Famers out of your lineup when you're down 1-2 in a series at home to your arch rival, you did it after Shohei Ohtani got 2 hits, one of them being an opposite field home run, and you did it after Mookie Betts got a hit, which one of them was a pull side home run, and then hit another ball very hard to the shortstop, Willy Adames. Think about the discipline that took from this organization to not be reactive. That's the word that Dave used. Stick with the plan. And then think about the depth that it takes to actually go ahead and win both of those games. Think about that for a second. Now, if you're worried about the Dodgers, or if you're worried about, hey, they're not doing this, being May or whatever, first of all, stop. It's May, okay? That doesn't mean we're not going to have 2 or 3 shows to where we're not frustrated. We don't vent and we don't say, hey, I want to see these things changed. That's not what I mean. What I mean is, if you're already on the bandwagon because of a 3-week span or a 2-week span in May, that, hey, this Dodgers team just isn't going to three-peat. They just don't have it this year. There's no fire, blah, 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 blah. Okay? I'm going to first of all say it's May. I'm going to second of all say, go back to my last 5 minutes and think about what the Dodgers just accomplished. 2 surefire Hall of Famers not in the lineup, disciplined to do it, in the face of both of them having really good nights before they got sat down, and you're replacing them with Alex Call, Hyesung Kim, Miguel Rojas. Those guys perform, and you win both games. Name me another organization that has the roster depth and overall talent to be able to do that. So when you ask yourself, can the Dodgers win the World Series? I'm going to ask you to tell yourself, not only can they win the World Series, they're favorites. They have the best roster in baseball, and they just showed it in the last 2 days. And if you can just look past the fact that they've only scored 9 runs in the last 2 days and realize they're showing signs of playing better offense, but just really kind of dive into what I just went over. That is proof right there just how talented this roster is, how deep it is, and why the Dodgers have the best roster in baseball, and why, doesn't mean they're going to, but why they are the favorites to win the World Series again. And that's why I think they are. Hey, Will Smith likes that leadoff spot. So did Mookie Betts the other night. Again, I covered this the other night, but I think this is a very underrated aspect of not hitting Shohei Ohtani on the day that he pitches and then the day after, is that is 2 built-in games by plan where somebody else is the leadoff hitter. That somebody else will be Mookie Betts. I don't think there's any hiding the fact that Mookie Betts likes being in the leadoff spot. I think Mookie Betts is hitting 2-hole because he happens to be teammates of the greatest player in our generation, okay? I think he's having to hit 2-hole because of that. But I think if you put a true serum in Mookie Betts, I think he would squarely say, I prefer being in the leadoff spot. So these are all the marginal aspects and the leaving no stone unturned part of this organization. Beyond just maximizing Shohei Ohtani as a pitcher and a hitter, I think now you're going to maximize Mookie Betts because, in essence, you are, by plan, creating 2 different leadoff hitters, okay? And now, in the big show that we have with Austin on Wednesday night, Austin was 100% correct whenever he made the statement that we have no evidence whatsoever that Mookie Betts, I went on and on that, hey, put him in the leadoff, tell him just get on base. Don't worry about getting hits. Certainly don't worry about power or slug, any of that. Just worry about getting on base, and I think Mookie Betts can do that. Just put together quality at-bats, put them together a threshold of what you think quality at-bats are, typically speaking quality at-bats. 7 pitches or above, no matter the results, even a strikeout, if you make the pitcher throw 7 pitches or above, quality at bat. Anytime that you get on base, no matter what, quality at bat. Any hard contact, which is 95 miles an hour or over, quality at bat, okay? Any type of sacrifice, whether it be a sacrifice bunt or a sacrifice fly, quality at bat. Anytime that you move a runner from second to third and now they're at third base with less than 2 outs, quality at bat. So my narrative on Mookie Betts was move him to the leadoff spot and put him under the threshold of, I don't care how many hits you get, Mookie. I don't care what your batting average is. I certainly don't care what your slugging numbers are. What we want is a slew of quality at-bats at a leadoff spot that removes the results perspective of it. It puts it into the process of there's several. See, like whenever you deal with results and just hits, there's only one way you can have a successful ending to an at-bat. That's get a hit. And then whenever you're only doing that 30% of the time and the only thing that's acceptable to you is getting a hit, then that's not a realistic goal. That's why you have to back up and make realistic goals. And quality at bats, that's exactly what it does for a hitter. So that's why when you're in a slump, instead of thinking results and thinking hits, I need to get a hit here, the only result that I accept is a hit. Then if you put in parameters of a quality at bat, that's much more attainable. Then you're actually reaching goals more often. Then you're having more positive thoughts. Then those positive thoughts, those eventually then turn into results. That's what's happening to the Dodgers offense right now. That's what I went over with Mookie Betts. I think that's the perfect case scenario for him in the situation he's in right now with what he's capable of giving. Okay. But Austin 100% correctly made the statement that we have no proof that Mookie Betts can do any of this and that he's not going to be better in the 1 hole than he is in the 2 hole. And by doing that, you're taking away a minimum of 15 at bats for the entire year away from Shohei Ohtani. And there's no argument you can make that that's a good thing. Okay. The argument is if Mookie Betts is a good player, okay, and he becomes a better player, then that mix between him being a better player will far out trump the 15 at-bats that Shohei Ohtani would lose. And as the offense gets better, as Mookie Betts gets on base more, then you're actually creating more at-bats per game for the Dodgers team, which is going to make up for the 15 at-bats that you would lose. So a long spiel here to say, okay, the Dodgers, trust me, they know what they're doing. They want Mookie Betts to be a leadoff hitter. They also want Shohei Ohtani to be a leadoff hitter. So they have made a natural situation to where 2 days a week, the leadoff spot is available, and Mookie Betts will be able to slide into that spot as he gets healthy. Here is another thing. Pay attention to Dave Roberts' words. He does not mince words, but you really kind of have to understand coaches speak to really understand what he's saying. And also what he said in his post-game interview was that, yeah, you know, hey, you like to get your guys in their spots. You like to get them comfortable where they're at. That way, as a manager, you can kind of know what to expect from day to day. You can know who's hot, who's not. What does each guy do from each position in the lineup? That's very important to have that stability and that consistency, no doubt about it. But if you're going to be a great lineup, you also need versatility. That's what makes a guy like Will Smith so valuable, is that he doesn't give a rat's ass where he's hitting in the lineup. Coach, just put me in. Okay, put me in, coach. That song, that's Will Smith, as he showed by hitting the leadoff home run on the 4th pitch of the game yesterday on a sinker about belt high. Okay, so having the versatility to where, and then here's where this really comes into importance. The versatility is big because then Dave Roberts can move 2 or 3 pieces to match up better, whether it's a lefty or righty. That's the biggest one. But I'll tell you a really sneaky part of the advantages of having versatility, being able to move a guy up and down a lineup and moving them from one hole to the other, is that if one player is going good, okay, then you can move them up. Or here's the big one. if somebody is not going good, like Will Smith hadn't, I've said this 3 or 4 times in the last 2 days, okay? When a player's not going good, that's when you move them in the lineup. It's no different than you have a guy that's in an organization and he's struggling. And then all of a sudden that guy goes to a different organization and all of a sudden catches a second win and starts doing very well. Well, that's not a knock on the organization he left from. That doesn't mean the organization he left from has bad instruction or a bad manager or bad anything. That just means the change of scenery did that player a world of good, and just the change of scenery alone was the adjustment that that player needed, or at least one of the biggest adjustments, one of the adjustments. Maybe not the only adjustment, but one of, okay? So use that same concept, and you have a guy in Will Smith who is really struggling, okay? Give him a change of scenery, in which the Dodgers did last night. Instead of hitting wherever he hits, he's hitting in the leadoff. It looks different. It's a different challenge. It's just different. It's a different look. It's a change of scenery. And sometimes just a change of scenery will get a guy out of a funk. I mean, think about this every day. You're in a funk. You do the same thing every day. It's literally groundhog every single day. Then let me ask you, if that's the case, okay, is that not insanity? Insanity being doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. How are you ever going to get out of your funk if you keep doing the same thing every single day and you keep getting in the same rut every day? So you got to try something new. You got to give yourself new scenery, and that's what the Dodgers are going to do with Mookie Betts on one of the 2 days that Shohei Ohtani's not hitting. That's what they did with Will Smith last night. And that's why Dave Roberts appreciates somebody like Will Smith as much as he does, because that gives him the versatility throughout the lineup to where he can move guys, A, again, for matchup advantages, but B, to be able to give different hitters different looks. And I think that's something that we saw last night with Will Smith. Okay. Casey, do you see Kendall George as a future leadoff hitter? 100%. This guy. Hey, did you hear the news? Hear about the Diaz news? I have not. Can you go ahead? I've actually been at work all day, so I put show notes together. But beyond that, can you fill me in on that? I'll go ahead and I will search here, but I have not actually heard that news. Yes. Oh, okay. Edwin Diaz linked to cockfights. It's legal in Puerto Rico, thank God. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I feel safe here. The cockfighting arena is like my home, said Edwin Diaz. A federal ban on cockfighting took effect in Puerto Rico in 2019. So that's an interesting situation. I'm glad you brought that to my attention, Honey Oats. That's absolutely crazy. Yeah, Al Minerva here. I don't want to speculate on anything further. That sounds like there's 2 different reports going there. I'm not a news reporter. I'm an analyst. I don't get big in the news. Thank you for bringing that to my attention there, Honey Oats. Again, I'll be a little bit more in tune as school gets out, but that's crazy, okay? And we'll have to see how that plays forward. Let me actually type this in. Again, I put the link to the show in the chat. Come on in right here. And let me link this in here one more time, and right there. Again, I want to remind you, let me type this in. Come join the show. Join the show. There's the link. I'm going to get into Dalton Rushing here in just a second, okay? I think we need to have a conversation about him and the emotional way in which he is handling himself right now. So, all right. Edwin Diaz linked, that's all I'm going to say right now, to illegal cockfighting. Well, we'll see how that goes. I don't know, Honey Oats. I'm not getting into that. I'm going to punt that. I'm not afraid to tell you. I'm punting that. I'm not a news reporter. Plus, I have an O State Daily too. I do a little bit more news on the O State side just for different reasons, but I never want to be first. I want to be correct. I want to be right. If you noticed, all of my Sometimes I'm not on time. I'm a little bit late or a lot late on certain things, but I'm never inaccurate. That's kind of how I go about that. So losing Diaz would be a massive blow. I don't disagree. Obviously, he's great, but I'm just telling you, Kyle Hurt's badass. I would be excited for Kyle Hurt at that point. So, yeah, it's illegal federally. Happy Tanner is filling the closer role. And otherwise, yeah, we'd be cooked. Tanner Scott, Kyle Hurt, okay, there's candidates there to fill that role in. That's a tough blow there. That's an interesting deal. So I want to remind you, I'm going to record my Down on the Farm here later, just like yesterday. I'll release it about 1:30 Pacific time. Make sure and look out for that. We've been getting good numbers on that. Keep checking out my Down on the Farm shows. I really enjoy those. I decided to detach this show with the Down on the Farm. That way it's not quite as long. I don't have quite as much time right now anyway, so it's a little bit easier for me. I think I'm going to keep doing that, make it 2 separate shows. So if you want the LA Dodgers talk, this is where you go. If you want the farm system talk, that's where you go, that kind of thing. Doesn't mean, hey, if you got a prospect or anybody that you want to talk about, you want me to cover, stop, drop, and roll. Put it in the chat, and I will cover and talk about any prospect that you want me to. So let's get into our chat on Dalton Rushing. I got about 5 minutes here, okay? In pro baseball, the Cardinals taught me this through Eddie Daves again. The Cardinals of the 80s. Davelin Sirota says the Wade should be in Double-A soon. I agree with that. There's a saying, play with emotions, but don't be emotional. So play with emotions, like being competitive is emotions, right? Being having intensity. Intensity is an emotion, correct? So you have to have emotions. You have to play with emotions. If you play with emotions, you're just going to be dead. You're going to be lethargic. You're just going to be blah, and you're not going to be anybody wants to rally around. So playing with emotions is a really big deal, and it is a huge deal for Dalton Rushing. Dalton Rushing is a fiery football type mentality. He expects to be perfect, and he expects to be awesome with everything he does. Okay. And so that has been a part of his game that has allowed him to become what he's become, which has been the Dodgers' number one prospect, a guy that's been a great hitter, a great catcher, a great baseball player since the time he picked up a bat and a ball and a glove when he was 4 or 5 years old and started playing T-ball. That emotion is not a medium or small part, a huge part of what's made Dalton Rushing as great as he is. So you don't want to remove the emotion, but there's a difference between playing with emotions and then being emotional. So being emotional is riding the ups and the downs of results, okay? Having emotion is bringing the intensity to give your best effort every single time you're in competition, okay? That's what playing with emotions does, is that you want to win so badly that you put your best effort forward. You figure out the best game plan of what mental state you need to get into, what type of energy you need to put forward, and those emotions allow you to win the moment, which is what baseball is, okay? But then after that, once the situation's over, it's kind of like, I equate it to whenever a coach and an umpire, or a manager and umpire get into it, and even if they get into it pretty heavily, okay, what they're doing is they're showing emotions, okay? But then after the game's over, it's over. The next day, it's over. Don't be emotional about it. Being emotional about that would be carrying a grudge into the future. That's what Dalton Rushing's doing right now, okay? Yeah, when you're in the middle of an at-bat, you're competing your ass off. You want to win, and you're pretty pissed when you don't. I get it, okay? But then move on, okay? The being emotional part of your competitive nature, the competition that you just were under, the playing with emotions aspect, that moment is over. Now don't be emotional, okay? Go to the dugout, be a pro, okay? So instead of breaking your bat and being emotional, what you need to do is you actually need to put a game plan together as to how will I win the next moment whenever I get into competition? How do I get ready for my next ability to play with emotions to win my next moment? Versus, because what emotional does is you're wasting all your energy on breaking bats. So while you're breaking bats and dropping F-bombs and doing whatever it is you're doing and consuming thoughts all on the wrong things, what you should be doing is putting a game plan together as to how to win the next moment. So a long story short here to say, Dalton Rushing needs to keep playing with emotions, that Pete Rose emotion, that fiery, intense emotion that he plays with. Keep it. Don't drop any of it. It's what's made you as good as you are. But once the moment is over, quit being emotional. Okay? That's the advice for Dalton Rushing. If I was his dad, if I was Dave Roberts, if I was Andrew Friedman, if I was Dan McDonnell at Louisville, and I wanted to shoot him a text and get him squared around, okay, that's what I would tell him, okay, is that you are blurring the lines between competing with emotions, but then carrying that into being emotional. So I'm going to wrap this up and say this one more time. Play with emotions, but don't be emotional. I explained the difference between the two. Dalton Rushing is blurring the two, and because of that, he's putting a bad look out there, okay? Dodgers fans are thinking, what the hell is wrong with this guy? This guy's out of control. And by the way, it's not helping anything. It's not making him better. So that's my opinion on the Dalton Rushing situation. That's all the time I got. Again, I want to remind you that Down the Farm segment will be coming out here in a couple hours. Make sure and check that out. Keep your notifications on. And so till next time, I want to thank you for tuning in. By the way, this isn't a Giant shirt. It's an OSU shirt. I'm going to cover them again tonight. So until next time, thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, it's a great day to be a Dodger.